Hi Wood folk, my name is Metagoblin. Today I'm going to be counting down 10 secretly awesome RPG games, you know, the hidden gems that are probably a little bit underrated. Now I have a lot of interesting games for you on this list, like some are free and others are, pretty cheap, and a lot of them are probably better than, half the crap that comes out these days. And I'll also be giving you information about how to obtain them. Now the reason why these games are less well known can be due to a number of reasons. For instance, the developers may have simply not marketed the game perfectly. To help you understand what that means is, look at the film The Princess Bride. When the film came out, it wasn't the most popular film in the world. I mean, it wasn't a complete disaster, but it was basically wasn't that good because not that popular simply because of a title. I mean, it's a bit girly, which probably put people off from watching it. And obviously, before the internet, you couldn't just check out an IMDb score or a review online, and that right there is the prime reason for that film becoming so popular in its later years: the internet, right? Some of these games had something bad about them, but normally these are things that can easily be overlooked once one gives the game a bit more time, and you eventually discover the hidden beauty and interesting and sometimes quite unique and revolutionary features that most popular RPGs still don't have. The other reason is because some of the games on this list are fan creations, which actually turn out to be better than the original game or make the game they are modding even better. I even have a completely free Flash game on this list, which will provide a good 4 hours of quality entertainment completely for free. And last, just before we begin, this is obviously more of a personal list. You may find your favourite underrated games not here, and that's simply because I haven't played every single game in the world, right? And I have I even had to interview a lot of people to gather information about some of these games, because I just simply haven't played that many. Well, I played quite a lot of RPG games, there's so many out there, you know what I mean? So, but anyway, let's get on with it. So the first game on this list may surprise you, since did you know that Bethesda published a pirates role-playing game called the Pirates of the Caribbean? Now, maybe thinking that game would probably just be a crap adventure game based on the film for an easy cash-in. That has about 2 hours of gameplay, but it's actually not, since the game before it was going to be called Pirates of the Caribbean was going to be a sequel to Sea Dogs, but last minute got renamed and a few little references from the film were added in, which is why when you play this game, the story isn't really, that much like the film at all. In the game, you get washed up after a storm and you get a little bit of a story before you are literally completely free to do whatever you want. You could easily get a lot of fun out of this game without even following any kind of story-focused quest. You simply just get your own ship to start off with, which you can upgrade the cannons of, the sails. You've got your own crew to manage. It's obviously, if you don't feed your crew or give them enough grog, then you got a mutiny on your hands. It's a little bit of a simulation game, which I really kind of like. You could bomb the crap out of other ships to get XP and gold, but most of the time it's better to actually board the ships and get loot and even steal the ship and then start building your own big armada, then go invading entire ports and becoming like king of the world. It's really good. Seriously, it's really cool. A lot of freedom in this game. It's almost like a sandbox. I guess you could call it a sandbox game. It was like a sandbox game before sandbox games were even a genre. There's also a big landmass to explore, on foot to find treasure and fight undead pirates. To obtain the game, you're going to have to find a second-hand copy on Amazon or eBay. I've done it in the past and never been disappointed. You can also, you can buy a copy. You can buy a new copy, but you probably have to pay quite a lot of money. There are other options. You don't have to buy this particular pirate role-playing game. If you Google pirate role-playing games, there are a few of them out there which are a bit more modern, and they're definitely worth checking out. All of them are pretty good, because at the end of the day, it's a pirate RPG, and how many are there of them? You know what I mean? The second game on this list is a fan creation called Pokemon Light Platinum, which is hands down the best Pokemon game I've ever played, and I've literally played most. It's what people call a ROM hack, where a developer uses software to hack into an old Game Boy Advance game and start changing stuff around enough to make a completely new game. It is really cool. There's a lot of them out there, and some of them don't even have to use a Game Boy Advance game anymore. We're just making it completely new and separated from a Game Boy Advance emulator. You can play completely free on your PC or Android device with another piece of software called an emulator. You can also play any GBA, what the fuck is that? GBA game on an emulator. The amount of content in this game for a Pokemon game is just absolutely ridiculous. I played this on my phone, while waiting for the train. I think I got about 25 hours into the game. I'd only just defeated the first Elite Four. There's like 16 gyms, 2 Elite Fours, and a huge region to explore. Not to mention a very long storyline to play through. There's a lot of story in this game, which is really cool as well. There's also a completely revamped interface, Pokemon from 4 regions, and multiple rivals to defeat. There isn't just one rival, there's like loads of them, which is pretty cool. So if you're a Pokemon fan, then you definitely have to give this a go. It's probably better than any of the Pokemon games that come out these days. Now for the third game on this list, I'm cheating a little bit because I'm going to talk about a mod for a game, but it's a mod which completely revamps the game by restoring cut content for the game, which makes it 10 times more enjoyable experience. And I think it's a little underappreciated, and that is the restored content mod for Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2, the Sith Lords, right? Now this game was rushed to release, which meant a lot of the game felt missing. Like there'd even be quests in the game that you would progress through and just abruptly end, or certain levels which just felt empty and filled with some trash mobs, and certain pathways were just completely blocked off. And so developers of this mod managed to find the files of cut content and basically merge it back into the game and filling the gaps, which turned the game from a 12 to 20 hours game, 20 hours tops if you literally experienced everything, to a game that you could easily enjoy for over 50 hours, which is quite impressive for a partially open world game with a few adjustments from a team of modders, right? So a lot of quests and conversational situations were restored with the original voice acting files, and the game itself is basically a Star Wars role-playing game, which, let's be honest, there has never been properly recreated since. Where you can create and progress your own Jedi through one of the best storylines in an RPG you'll probably ever experience, with a lot of opportunities which shall test your morals as a person. It's one of those cool games where you can actually adapt yourself into the role of an evil, merciless renegade rather than a game forcing you to be some stereotypical hero. The game plays like a small close-up strategy game as well, which is also quite interesting since everything is turn-based and you have the ability to control 3 characters at once through the levels. And there's a number of different abilities to unlock, from blaster rifle shooting to styles of Jedi lightsaber techniques and Jedi powers and force lightning, force storm, draining people's health, blowing people up. It's there's a lot of choice. You can get the game on Steam pretty cheap and download the mod through the Steam Workshop, which is really easy. Just click that subscribe button and it's downloaded. I'm also very tempted to stream this very soon, so look out for that soon. The next game on this list is also based on a very popular franchise, that is The Lord of the Rings, The War in the North. The game was a bit of a commercial failure since it didn't really sell a lot of copies, and it got like a lot of bad reviews from like Metacritic, like stuff like that, but I don't really understand why, since if you look at the Steam user reviews, they're actually pretty good, so you can't complain. This is probably the best Lord of the Rings RPG game you can literally buy, and also one of the best co-op RPGs you can buy. You have a great Lord of the Rings story, heavily accurate to the lore with a lot of interesting characters which aren't featured in films. You also get a chance to explore a lot of interesting locations that I was always interested in whenever I looked at the map, at the beginning of the book for like hours on end, which is probably why it took me so long to read the bloody thing. The combat is also a lot of fun and feels satisfying, and the development of your characters has a lot of interesting, unique options. You can also choose whether, you can basically choose whether to be more tanky. You can use any weapon type you want, be an archer, a healer, or a mental fire blasting elf warlock. It's definitely worth playing with a friend or two if you want to get the most out of this game. And you can still do the multiplayer pretty easily. And yeah, the multiplayer just basically still works. So it's fine. You just host it on your own internet. You can easily pick up the game on Steam, so be sure to watch out, for whenever there's a sale on. It's definitely worth picking up. For the next game, if you like dragons, then you're going to want to pick this one up, since, well, there's quite a lot of dragon stuff going on in this game, and that is Divinity, the developer's cut. It's another one of those games with great user reviews on Steam, but just not a lot of sales, which is probably because of the fact the game was a console port and had kind of like an inconsistent difficulty. But once you get past that, and you start to notice that Divinity has a lot of secretly fun features which are very different to most popular RPGs. Like for instance the ability to transform into a dragon, create and customize your own form of repulsive minion by assembling body parts from your enemies that you kill, and be the leader of your own huge dragon fortress. Combat is very diverse, with a number of options of how you want to basically scourge the world of evil dragons, zombies and mental fanatics. And now we're at number 6, which is going to be the Flash game I mentioned. If you don't have the best PC in the world, you're looking for something to do on that crappy laptop you cart around everywhere to work or school, then this game is perfect. It's called Monsters Den Book of Dread, and it's definitely the best RPG Flash game I've ever played, I normally play this while waiting for something in another game, like a server queue or something, and then I just end up closing the game I was waiting for, and then continue playing the Flash game, because it's literally that addictive. It's a classic style dungeon crawler with a turn-based combat system, and the amount of different abilities is surprisingly quite extensive for a Flash game. You'll have a party of 4 different characters, which can either be of 7 different classes, which are Warrior, Cleric, Rogue, Ranger, Barbarian, and Mage, and Conjurer, each with their own unique set of skills and customizable talent points. The game provides a good level of difficulty, which will require a very calculative and strategic mind to overcome, especially on the highest difficulties, with lots of cool bosses and creatures to defeat. You can also buy it on Steam if you really want to, but you can just play it for free and congregate, so your choice there. For number 7, we have a very weird game, and I don't think it ever really understood its own identity. I mean, imagine Skyrim, but with other players running around. That is kind of like what this game is, and that game is 2 worlds. There were a lot of problems with this game on release, which immediately put people off and created this overblown hatred towards the game. It was very glitchy on release. It's a little less now. I've put 12 hours into the game without any problems. But once you man up and kind of deal with the glitchiness, bad graphics and weird animations, you discover a game which had a huge amount of potential, with features, so brave and innovative that they have barely ever been attempted ever again. And that's why it's such a strange game. You have all the elements of a classic RPG, with a lot of old school features, like when you attack a skeleton with a sword, it won't do that much damage, but when you hit him with a big meaty mace or hammer, and then you'll knock him into a dog's dinner. I just kind of miss those kind of things sometimes, even though they're a little bit of a hindrance. It's kind of annoying. But it also meant that the player had to think more strategically rather than just jumping into a dungeon beating stuff up. I mean, an RPG game shouldn't be anything like playing Call of Duty, because it's the kind of game you actually want to think about and become immersed into for the realism that the game forces you to experience. I mean, there's a good quantity of quests and a huge diverse world to explore with different styled scenery, which makes you feel like you're like Middle Earth or something, which is something I kind of don't like about Skyrim, since most of the scenery just feels the same. The game is also going to be a combination of a single player game and an MMO, which is what I find weird about this game, since you could literally have played this game like playing World of Warcraft, since it was intended for there to be hundreds of people running around the game whenever you turned the multiplayer mode on. It makes sense because there was a lot of challenging monsters in the game, like huge dragons, which make you feel like you're in an MMO, or you should have like other people with you to defeat this big ass dragon. But I guess I just toned down the difficulty a bit, since not a lot of people bought the game, which meant not many people were playing online. I just think it was a wonderful and novel idea which didn't achieve its full potential. It was a game which had an idea probably way too early for its time, since there's literally, there isn't really a MMO survival RPG game with emphasis on the RPG element of the game except for Ark, which as we know is a game way ahead of its time, because since barely anyone can even run it. Interestingly, this next game just got revamped into an anniversary edition with a lot of modernization. Literally as I was writing the script, and that is Titan Quest Anniversary Edition. I got this game for free, basically, with a new graphics card about 2 years ago, and I'm probably going to put about 4 hours into the game. But now with this new version, since I get it for free for owning the original copy and its DLC, I might give it another go, especially since the multiplayer functionality has been integrated properly with Steam. The main thing this game has going for it is the fact it's an RPG mixed into a full Greek world of Greek mythology. So if you ever found it fascinating to learn about Greek mythology at school like me, then you'll likely love this game, especially the satisfaction you feel when you encounter the monsters that you already have knowledge about, like minotaurs, gorgons and sirens and stuff like that. The game's skill system has been revamped in this new version, probably to make it a little bit more balanced, along with a few improvements to your quality of life. There's just hours of astonishing content in this game, which is definitely worth experiencing, especially while the game is on sale, which will end soon, so be sure to check it out. For number 9, we have another fan creation called Naren. right? Which was a modification for Oblivion, which revamped it into a completely new game. A lot of time has been put into the curation of this game, especially since the landmass nearly equals vanilla Oblivion. The landmass has been, less randomly generated than Oblivion, so you're going to find exploring this game a lot more interesting for overall content. However, there's probably a little less hours of gameplay, but the main story itself has a lot more detail to it that I don't want to spoil. There's also a lot of reworked no, there isn't also a lot of, sorry, there's also a reworked experience system in the game that follows a more, oh my god, I keep getting this bloody unresponsive plug-in bloody shockwave notification covering up my script. I mean, piss off. Right, where was it in the script? There's also a reworked experience system in the game that follows a more traditional functionality where you can get experience from killing monsters and completing quests, right? Which I know a lot of people, some prefer that kind of system, some don't. I mean, seriously, this fucking shockwave plugin needs to piss off. Fucking hell, go away. Now, seriously, guys, how the hell does Microsoft Firefox crash on a quad-core processor? I mean, how does that happen? Anyway, where was I? Personally, I think, some people prefer that kind of system of experience. Some people prefer a more like Oblivion/Skyrim version. Personally, I think games should have a combination of both. I also think that cities and interiors are a lot more pleasing to the eye in Naren than Oblivion. It's obviously a lot of thought and time went into designing everything you see in the game. And it's also pretty cool that you can ride donkeys. And now we have our final game, which is another fan creation, but the actual game itself is probably my most desired idea for a game that I want to be properly released by a developer, and that is WoW World of Warcraft Awakening. There's no real World of Warcraft, it's like a custom private server which is getting pretty popular right now, and that's likely down to its significantly fundamental ideas which I really want in the game, similar to what we were talking about when we were chatting about Two Worlds. You see, Awakening is an open world survival RPG game which is also completely classless, which means you can strategically create your own class, and it isn't always about which talent choices do the most DPS. It's kind of sometimes about creating a build that has the best survival techniques. You have survival mechanics like hunger, and the game is mostly about trying to level up while not getting killed, farming dungeons to get better gear to kill people in the open world and steal other people's loot, since the game will function like H1Z1, where when you die you lose random pieces of loot, which is pretty cool. But the starter zones are basically safe zones, so you won't be killed all the time. Inns are also safe zones, which I think is just incredibly immersive, and capital cities are as well, which is pretty cool. You can also group up with people, and when you do, it means that the player you're in a group with will no longer be hostile, so you can go around in raiding parties and try and dominate the server. But the catch is that the game has not been fully released yet, but you can play it by leaving a donation or just wait for the open beta, so be sure to give it a look into when it is fully released. Basically it's like H1Z1 but Skyrim mixed in. Like, why hasn't that kind of game been properly invented yet? And that's why I'm talking about games like this. I mean, maybe there has been, and in that case, like, tell me in the comment section, because I've been searching for one, I just haven't found one. Anyway, why is there's no more? Isn't that no more of my script? Oh yeah, I didn't finish it off. It was a bloody 3,000 word script. I've just talked probably solid for about half an hour because I've recorded 2 videos before this. I've just spoke out loud about 5,000 words, and now my tonsils feel like they're literally going to fall off. But anyway, lads, be sure to check out the video. See, I can't even speak. Just be sure, just well, it is late at night, I don't have to speak to anyone for the rest of the day. What am I going to say? Check out the video link in the description for more videos like this. My name is Goblin. Until my next video, ciao.